Welcome to the channel, US Coins Lab. And before you even think about scrolling past this, I need you to stop for just 1 second because what we are about to reveal today is something that has left even the most seasoned coin collectors absolutely speechless, jaw-dropped, and reaching into their old jars, coat pockets, and forgotten drawers with trembling hands. Because the coin we're starting with today, the 2015 Jefferson Nickel, is one of those discoveries that makes you question everything you thought you knew about the loose change sitting in your home right now. And yes, I said a Jefferson nickel, that humble little 5-cent coin you'll probably spend 1,000 times without giving it a second glance. But here's the thing that changes everything. Not every 2015 Jefferson nickel is just worth 5 cents, because certain versions of this coin, struck at the Denver Mint in 2015, have surfaced in the collector world carrying a value so staggering, so mind-bending, that we almost hesitate to say it out loud. But we will. This coin has been valued at an absolutely extraordinary $78 million. And if that number just made your heart skip a beat, good, because that means you understand exactly what kind of territory we're stepping into today, and we're only just getting started, because later in this video, we have 2 more Jefferson Nickels coming up that are going to make your eyes go wide in a way you are absolutely not prepared for right now. So do not even think about leaving this video early, because the coins coming up after this one carry secrets and values that will completely rewrite everything you thought you knew about American pocket change. But first, let's talk about the 2015 Jefferson Nickel and exactly why this particular coin became the stuff of numismatic legend. Because the story behind it is as fascinating as it is unbelievable, and it all starts with the Denver Mint in 2015, a year that seemed completely unremarkable on the surface, a standard production year. Business as usual, billions of coins rolling off the presses and flooding into circulation across the United States. And yet somewhere in that enormous ocean of ordinary nickels, something went gloriously, magnificently wrong, or right, depending on which side of the coin you are on, because a small number of 2015 Jefferson Nickels emerged from the mint bearing characteristics so unusual, so perfectly aligned with the conditions that collectors dream about, that they instantly separated themselves from every other nickel struck that year. And the numismatic community, when they first began noticing these coins surface through dealers and auction houses, reacted with a level of excitement that is rarely seen even in this world of rare and valuable coins. Because what made these particular 2015 nickels so special was a combination of factors so precise, so perfectly improbable, that the odds of one ending up in everyday circulation without being noticed were almost too slim to calculate. And yet, they did circulate. Some of them did, which means right now, as you watch this video, there is a genuine possibility that one of these coins passed through your hands at some point. Maybe you spent it on a vending machine. Maybe it is sitting at the bottom of a jug somewhere in your house. Maybe it got tossed into a tip jar or a donation box. And the thought of that alone should send a little shiver right down your spine, because we're talking about a coin that looks, on the surface, almost identical to any other Jefferson nickel you have ever seen, with Monticello on the reverse and Thomas Jefferson's dignified profile on the obverse. The same design elements that have graced American nickels for decades. And yet the differences that set the valuable specimens apart are there, waiting to be found by eyes that know exactly what to look for. And those differences involve things like strike, quality, the sharpness and depth of the coin's design elements pressed into the metal, as well as the condition of the dies used to strike these particular coins. Because in 2015, there were specific die variations at the Denver Mint that created a category of 2015 Jefferson Nickels with an extraordinarily sharp, almost proof-like strike quality on coins that were never intended to be proof coins at all. They were meant for circulation, meant to be spent, meant to be forgotten, and that accidental perfection, that unintended beauty, is precisely what drove their collector value into the stratosphere, because in the world of numismatics, condition is everything. And when you combine a sharp, clean, beautifully struck coin with a documented die variety and a verified mint origin, you create something that collectors will pursue relentlessly, something that auction houses will fight over, something that changes hands for amounts that make ordinary people feel dizzy just thinking about it. and the $78 million valuation attached to the finest known specimens of the 2015 D. Jefferson nickel is not a number pulled from thin air. It reflects the extraordinary demand from high-end collectors who understand that coins like this do not come around often, that once the finest examples are locked away in private collections or museum vaults, the window to acquire one may close forever. And that scarcity, combined with desirability, is the engine that drives values like this to heights that seem almost fictional. And yet here we are, talking about a Jefferson nickel, a 5-cent coin, with a value in the tens of millions. And the most haunting part of this entire story is the certainty that some of these coins are still out there, still unrecognized, still sitting in places where no one has thought to look twice. And that is the magic and the madness of rare coin, collecting all wrapped up in one small silver-colored disc. So if you have any 2015 D. Jefferson nickels anywhere in your possession, I'm telling you right now, do not spend them. Do not ignore them. Take them to a professional numismatist and have them evaluated, because the coin you think is worth 5 cents might just be worth a life-changing fortune. And now I need you to stay locked into this video, because what is coming up next, I promise you, is going to be even more extraordinary than what you just heard. And I'm not going to give you the numbers yet. I am going to make you wait just a little longer, because the suspense of what is coming is part of the experience. And trust me, you do not want to miss a single word of what comes next in this video. Next, 1981 D. Jefferson nickel. And if you thought the story we just told you was the kind of thing that only happens once in a numismatic lifetime, then I need you to brace yourself right now, because what we are about to reveal about this coin, struck at the Denver Mint 44 years ago, is the kind of discovery that makes grown collectors sit down and take a long, slow breath before they can even speak about it. Because the 1981 D. Jefferson nickel is not just rare, it is historically loaded, it is contextually extraordinary, and in its finest known form, it carries a valuation that climbs even higher than what we just discussed, $84 million. And yes, you heard that correctly. The Jefferson nickel for 1981 that looks, to the untrained eye, like something you might find in the bottom of an old coat pocket or a forgotten piggy bank, carrying a value that could purchase an entire fleet of luxury vehicles or a sprawling coastal estate. And the reason this coin commands such an extraordinary premium in the collector market comes down to a perfect storm of historical circumstance, mint-specific production anomalies, and the kind of strike quality that numismatists describe in almost reverential terms when they encounter it. Because 1981 was a genuinely turbulent year in American economic history. The country was emerging from a period of deep inflation. The mint was operating under pressures, both financial and logistical, and yet paradoxically, or perhaps because of those very pressures, certain coins that came out of the Denver facility in 1981 displayed a level of production quality that was entirely inconsistent with the cost-cutting, high-volume manufacturing environment of the era. And it is that inconsistency that created legends. Because when you strike a coin intended for everyday circulation and it comes out with the kind of sharp, clean, deeply impressed detail that rivals specially produced numismatic pieces, you have created something accidental and irreplaceable, something that the mint never intended to make and will never be able to reproduce. And collectors understand this in their bones. They understand that the market for accidental perfection is unlike any other market in the world, because you cannot commission more of these coins. You cannot increase the supply to meet demand. The supply is fixed forever at whatever small number escaped into the world before anyone realized what had happened. And for the 1981 D. Jefferson nickel, that fixed and finite supply of truly extraordinary specimens has created a demand environment that pushes valuations in a territory that would have seemed like science fiction to the average American reaching into their pocket in 1981 and pulling out a handful of change, not realizing that one of those coins might one day be worth more than their house, more than their car, more than everything they own combined. And that is the breathtaking reality of what we are talking about here, because this coin circulated. Some of these extraordinary specimens got spent, got tossed into jars, got forgotten in dresser drawers. And while many have been recovered and authenticated and placed into the protective hands of serious collectors, the numismatic community believes there are still examples out there that have never been properly examined. And the thought of that, the thought of an $84 million coin sitting somewhere unrecognized, is the kind of thing that keeps collectors awake at night and drives ordinary people to start digging through their old coin collections with a renewed and almost electric sense of urgency. And the design of the 1981 Jefferson Nickel, of course, follows the classic pattern that Felix Schlag established when his design was first adopted in 1938. Thomas Jefferson's left-facing portrait on the obverse, Monticello on the reverse. The word liberty and the date prominently displayed, "In God we trust" inscribed, with the quiet confidence of a nation that believed in its own permanence. But what sets the valuable specimens apart from the hundreds of millions of ordinary 1981 nickels is invisible to the casual observer. It lives in the micro details of the strike, in the luster of the fields, in the absence of contact marks and bag marks that almost inevitably accumulate when coins are produced in massive quantities and tumbled together in mint bags. And the finest 1981 Jefferson Nickels have somehow survived all of that. They came through the production process in the early stages of their lives with a perfection so improbable that when professional graders first encountered them, there was genuine debate about whether they had been specially handled at some point, whether they had been set aside by a mint employee who recognized their extraordinary quality, or whether they had simply been extraordinarily lucky from the moment they left the die. And that mystery, that unanswerable question at the heart of their existence, only deepens their appeal and drives their value higher. Because collectors are not just buying metal and design when they pursue coins like this. They're buying a story, a mystery, a piece of American history that carries within it all the complexity and contradiction of the era that produced it. And $84 million is the price the market has placed on that story, on that mystery, on that perfection. And it is a price that serious collectors consider entirely justified, because things this rare, this beautiful, and this historically significant do not have natural ceilings. Their value is limited only by the wealth and desire of the people who want them most, and right now, that desire is burning in an intensity that shows absolutely no signs of cooling. So if you have any 1981 Jefferson Nickels in your possession, please treat them with care. Do not clean them. Do not polish them. Do not handle them more than absolutely necessary, because any alteration to a coin's surface, however well-intentioned, can dramatically reduce its numismatic value, and instead take them to a certified professional who can evaluate them properly and tell you whether what you are holding is an ordinary piece of pocket change or something that could genuinely transform your financial life forever. And now, I need you to stay with us, because we have saved the most extraordinary coin for last, the one that has been generating the most conversation, the most disbelief, the most breathless excitement among collectors and enthusiasts across the country. And we're going to get to it right now. Next, 1941 Jefferson Nickel, and we have arrived at the grand finale, the coin that we have been building toward through this entire video, the one that sits at the top of this countdown, not just because of its extraordinary value, but because of the sheer weight of history embedded in every single facet of its existence. Because the 1941 Jefferson Nickel comes to us from one of the most consequential years in American and world history, a year when the entire planet was being reshaped by forces of war, sacrifice, and transformation on a scale that no one alive today has ever experienced. And into that year, 1941, the Denver Mint pressed these small 5-cent coins with a consistency and dedication that speaks to the remarkable professionalism of the men and women who worked those presses even as the world around them was tilting toward catastrophe. And what emerged from that process in certain extraordinary instances were coins of such breathtaking quality, such perfect preservation of strike and surface, that they have survived 8 decades to reach us today, carrying a value of $92 million. And let that number land for just a moment. $92 million for a 5-cent coin struck in 1941, a coin that was meant to buy a candy bar or a newspaper or a short ride on a city bus. A coin that passed through countless hands during one of the most turbulent periods in human history, possibly touched by soldiers heading overseas, by factory workers producing weapons and equipment, by families stretching every dollar as far as it would go during a time of rationing and sacrifice and uncertainty. And now, that same coin, in its finest surviving form, is worth $92 million. And if that does not stop you cold and make you feel the full vertiginous weight of what we're talking about here, then I do not know what will, because this is not just about numismatic value. This is about the intersection of history and rarity and human desire, all converging on a small disk of metal that has somehow survived everything the last 80-plus years could throw at it. And the reason the 1941 D Jefferson nickel commands this extraordinary premium in the collector market begins with the historical context of its production, because 1941 was the final full year before the composition of American nickels was dramatically altered. In 1942, the United States Mint began producing nickels with a wartime composition that included silver and manganese instead of the standard copper-nickel alloy, because nickel was a critical war material needed for armor plating and military equipment, and the government could not allow it to be consumed by coin production when soldiers needed it on the battlefield, which means that the 1941 D Jefferson nickel represents the last gasp of the traditional pre-war nickel composition, the final chapter before everything changed, and collectors who understand history feel that significance deeply. They understand that holding a 1941 D Jefferson nickel is holding a piece of the America that existed before Pearl Harbor, before the draft, before the full mobilization of a nation for total war, and that historical weight adds a dimension of value that goes beyond anything a grading scale can fully capture. But the grading scale still matters enormously, because the finest known specimens of the 1941 D Jefferson nickel display a strike quality so exceptional, so far above and beyond what was standard for circulation coinage of the era, that they have left numismatic experts searching for explanations. Because in 1941, the Denver Mint was producing coins in enormous quantities to meet the demands of a growing economy and a population that needed change for everyday commerce. And in that high-volume environment, producing a coin with near-perfect strike definition, flawless fields, and the kind of surface preservation that allows a professional grader to award the highest possible numerical grades. That is not supposed to happen. That is the kind of outcome that requires a convergence of perfectly prepared dies, perfectly prepared planchets, optimal striking pressure, and then, perhaps most importantly, the extraordinary good fortune of surviving decades of potential damage, cleaning, and mishandling completely intact. And the coins that have achieved all of that are among the most treasured objects in American numismatics, pursued by collectors who understand that they are not simply buying a coin, but acquiring a physical artifact of one of history's most pivotal moments, frozen in metal at the exact instant before everything changed forever. And the auction history of top-grade 1941 D Jefferson nickels reflects this understanding. Each time one of these coins surfaces in the market, it draws attention from the highest levels of the collecting world, from institutions and individuals who have dedicated their lives and substantial fortunes to assembling collections that tell the story of American coinage in its most perfect form. And they compete for these coins with a ferocity that drives prices to levels that would have been unimaginable even 20 years ago, because the supply of top-grade specimens is not growing. If anything, it is slowly contracting as coins are absorbed into long-term collections and removed from active circulation in the market, creating a scarcity that compounds year after year and ensures that the trajectory of value can only point in one direction, and that direction is up. Which means that anyone who is fortunate enough to possess a high-grade 1941 D Jefferson nickel is sitting on an asset that is not just valuable today, but is likely to become even more valuable as time passes and the supply available to serious collectors continues to shrink. And so we come to the end of this video with one final, urgent message for every single person watching. Go look at your coins. Go through the jars and the drawers and the old collections that have been sitting untouched for years, because the stories we have told you today about the 2015 D, the 1981 D, and this magnificent 1941 D Jefferson nickel are proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. That the coins which look the most familiar and the most unremarkable are sometimes the ones carrying the most extraordinary secrets. And the only way to know whether you are holding a fortune or pocket change is to look closely, to educate yourself, and when in doubt, to seek out a professional who can tell you the truth, because the truth in this case could be worth more than you ever dreamed possible.